And we're back. I know most of you guys are following us. We just did an episode talking Cougs with Chad and Joel as well. But we got myself and Nosey back in to talk Mariners. It's been a little bit, so we wanted to step back on the scene and just run through some Mariners and everything. Right now, obviously looking at a 7-6 ball game. Unfortunately, we did see the go-ahead home run by Gino, and now we're still in the seventh, so still some time. We can grow. We can make this happen. But we got Mariners baseball. Nosey, wanted to kick it off with over the past week. What have you seen? What have you liked? What's going on with the Mariners right now?
Ebbs and flows. I think that's the easiest way to say it. Ebbs and flows. I mean, you gotta, it's elephant in the room in a great way. You got Cal, got the record for most home runs at catcher. Phenomenal. I mean, such a great honor. Couldn't have happened to a better guy. I think that, especially, as a Seattle Mariner fan, a guy that has been vocal about wanting this place to be better, to compete. He's getting in with it with the management. You got to root for the guy. I mean, you got to root for the guy, and couldn't be happier for him. So there's your the flow of things, and then some of the results in the field. And even for Cal, I mean, he's streaky, and it just seems like his streaks are home runs and strikeouts. So right now we're seeing the home run streak, which all four great times. But all in all, that's baseball, right? We talk about baseball being a game of, if you get 3 out of 10 hits, you're an all-star. Not so much as in the records and wins loss, but we're doing all right. I think we're doing fine. I think you're hoping that your ups are high and your lows are minimal. And I think that's kind of, you look at what happened kind of in early August. We won 9 straight, followed it up with a 2-7, 2-7, kind of run, and kind of picked it back up. What we took, took 2 or 3 from the Athletics. We've taken already 2 from the Padres. We're in the bottom of the 7th right now. Who we might be able to sweep this thing when it comes down to it. But I'm sorry. I think I got ahead too far. So we won one of the Padres.
Yeah, we got one of Padres. We'll count it as 2. Hopefully this night ends well.
But again, it's that high, small, low, and then you pick it back up. Now 2-7 is not great, but again, you won 9 straight. Again, let's thank the baseball gods for also smiting the Astros for being the POSs that they are, and we're only a game and they're only a game and a half back. So in the current state, not the worst thing, not the greatest, but not the worst.
Yeah, I also want to give a shout out through that. Through the last 10 games, we've seen just an absolute emergence from some of this offense. Obviously, the 5-game skid, there was times where we were like, all right, the offense they're a little down. And then also just the pitching has been kind of stagnant overall. We haven't seen the pitching that we're so used to in Seattle. We've seen good performances, right? There's been good performances over the past month. Kirby's had a couple good performances, and then he has a couple bad performances. Luis Castillo, for the most part, has been steady all year, and then it'll be a bad outing, and it'll just happen to be at the wrong time. It's at the time where you're nipping at the heels of the Astros, and then just a bad outing. Overall, I got nothing bad to say about Luis Castillo, so I don't want to take anything away from him in that scenario. But huge shout out to Cal Raleigh, the big dumper, hitting number 48, 49 in the same game to take the lead over Salvador Perez in most home runs by a catcher. I know we're a day late and a dollar short talking about this, but it's our first episode back since it happened. So I wanted to at least address it. Give a huge shout out to the big dumper, who is now at 50, and he's facing the next big challenge, which if he gets to 54, he now ties Mickey Mantle for the most home runs hit by a switch hitter. And honestly, anything that piles on, he's now stacking that for the catcher category. And then obviously the big one, which for me is Barry Bonds. Like some people don't, they put an asterisk next to it. For me, Barry Bonds is one of my favorite players, and maybe I'm biased in just saying I still think that that's the record. But hey, everyone, or not everyone, a lot of people were doing it, and he happened to be the best at it. Still containing it. So, however it moves forward. Whatever the record may be, I hope Cal Raleigh surpasses it. If it's 62, awesome. If you're like me and you want to see 74, awesome as well. Either way, very historical year we are seeing from Cal Raleigh. We just haven't seen a performance like this in Seattle from a hitter in a long time. Ken Griffey Jr. is the last big name that we've seen this many bombs, or at least a lot of 40 45 plus. Nelson Cruz, we saw 40 plus a couple years in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't a platinum glove catcher. So like he's also got that going for him. And also wanted to get your thoughts and opinions. There's a lot of talk about the MVP race between him and Judge, and now he is caught up to Judge in WAR, which I know is a big stat in consideration for the MVP race, or just in that category and everything. Where do you think it shakes down? Not just your personal opinion, but where do you think, on the Baseball Writers of America, where do you think it shakes down for them and who they're going to choose in that?
Well, I'm going to take two takes on this. One is going to be what probably their take is, and then the other take is going to be my personal belief. If from what you see in the media and all this, it's who makes the best headline, who makes them, and unfortunately, it's New York, it's Aaron Judge. He's coming back from injury, helps this, and so if the Yankees are able to kind of get themselves into the playoffs, I feel like he might get it. Just the fact that he's a easy story. Now, I'm not saying Cal's not anything different, but we're just not New York. Now the other side of that is, if you've got a catcher that is within 10 points of any stat of another guy, it shouldn't even be a conversation. The guy's playing, I mean, he's, again, people have, you have DHs that play one position. In baseball, you're either playing in the field and then you're hitting. I feel like when you're a catcher, you're not only in the field, you're not only hitting, but you're also trying to manage the game. Now, again, you got Dan Wilson, but you were the in-game manager while also trying to hold a position, then hit. And the fact that if you're within 10, I would say if you're within 10, 20 points batting average, you're within 10% of their home runs, hits, whatever high metrics you want to look at as your stat lines to determine if a player's an MVP or not. If that's a catcher, it shouldn't be a conversation.
Yeah,
I mean, that's my take.
I also did want to point out, I think Gary Hill, I wanted to look it up from earlier today. This was a really cool tweet. Catcher home runs. I'll pull this up and just stream this. If you're not following Gary Hill, what are you doing? Because you need to be following Gary Hill. He's got really cool stats. There's a couple others that do a phenomenal job, but I did want to point this specific one out. Catcher home runs. And talking about this year, Cal Raleigh, just left-handed, is 30. The next best one is Shea Langeliers at 29. And then Hunter Goodman, 25, Salvador Perez, 22. And then Cal Raleigh, right-handed, falls in at number 5 with 20. Kind of amazing. Wanted to at least point that out. Excellent tweet or excellent findings and research by Gary Hill Jr., who does a phenomenal job. I've already said it 5 or 6 times. I'll say it 5 or 6 more. He does a phenomenal job. Really cool. Just like with that being said, we've never seen a performance like this from a catcher at the plate. We have never seen 49 home runs from a catcher, and we just saw 48, 49, and 50 within 2 days. And it's not even September. Knock on wood, but it's not even September, and we're going into arguably the biggest part of this year and potentially of this decade. If we make it to the ALCS, this will be the biggest series of this decade so far, and we're halfway through it. So I'm very excited to see what we got coming forward and what we got going on. I did want to touch on the trade deadline just a little bit. Thoughts from the trade deadline. We are about a month in with Gino and company. What are your thoughts from the trade deadline to now?
So we talked about, I think it was probably one of the last few shows we did, probably before kind of at least my hiatus, was kind of our concerns with even Gino. You know, as much as we love Gino, it was the transition back. How long was it going to take for him to kind of get back into it? Especially being a power hitter, because that's what he is. Naylor, not so much of a concern because he's just a professional hitter. So you're not too concerned about those individuals. But it's great to see Gino's it looks like he's kind of getting it back, which we need for this final stretch. So it's like, great. You know, I'm glad we're here. Again, the baseball gods make sure that the other teams didn't just run away. So great. You know, things are lining up for us. Pitching wise, we talked about it. We got the lefty, which I clamored for forever. We need another lefty in the pen. We got that in Caleb. He's been good. Now, the one thing and you can argue with this one way or the other is maybe you didn't need to add another bullpen arm in your major league roster, but you needed a major league ready arm in AAA because our bullpen was razor thin and it was one injury away, almost a thorn in the side. Thornton, there we go. Bad pun of the day for you. To say
Thornton
crap.
On the side.
Thornton on the side. Now your bullpen is now you're hurting, and you could have spent next to nothing to make sure you had a major league arm sitting in AAA ready to go. Now again, we've brought up a couple guys that Lau and some others, which is great, but it would have been at this point we're in a position we need the major league arms that say, okay, plug and play. So all in all, we're doing all right, but that to me, hopefully it doesn't bite us in the butt later. But that's kind of my overarching look at it from when we did it to kind of where we are today.
Yeah. I agree. I think, and I don't want to take anything away from Jerry and Justin at the deadline.
Mm-hmm.
This was one of the best deadlines I've seen them have.
Absolutely.
And now we have the chance to even capitalize on that with potentially bringing back Josh Naylor. With at least the conversation could be had about bringing back Gino Suarez too. What does that look like with Ben Williamson in the future? What does that look like with potential emergence from Cole Emerson over the next couple of years, and some of these other young infielders like Brock Rodden that are also flying up through the minors. So it's at least a conversation to be had beyond this year as well. Do I think they test free agency first before giving us the yes? Yeah, absolutely. I think they do, just because they're coming off of great years. But the conversation is there, and now that you're starting to see what winning looks like in Seattle, it brings me right back to 2001 all over again, or even 2022. There was a lot of hints of that as we were as we clinched and we were looking at our very first home game in the postseason. I mean, that game was electric and it went 16 plus innings, and I'm very excited to see what playoff baseball looks like back in Seattle, not only on a consistent basis, but a deep playoff run. What does that look like? As a fan, I'm absolutely elated, and I would love to see this town, because we haven't seen one since 2014. What a championship looks like in this city, especially for a fan base that's been hurting for so long, for just non mediocrity. I can't even call us poor. We weren't even bad or poor. We were just mediocre for so many years, and it's just that win-loss purgatory that we were just in. We were just in that middle ground for so many years, and now we're finally busting through that wall, and we're starting to see what that kind of looks like moving forward. But you do have to capitalize on it right now. When we got tied with the Astros, it's a race to the end of September on most wins. That's what it was when we got tied with them just a few weeks ago. Now we're looking at, you just got to outbid the Astros the rest of the way. And that's what it is. And we're back to, if we lose tonight, and we're back to 2 games behind them. So I think some of those answers could have been addressed. I did want to give a shout out to Caleb Ferguson. Since he's been a Mariner, I will pull up his stats here real quick. Since he's been a Mariner, this was an excellent get, and this was kind of what you needed to get since he's been a Mariner. Right now, he has 10.2 innings. He has 7 strikeouts. Not a big strikeout guy. We knew that coming in. 3 walks. So yeah, it could be better. It could be worse. It's still on a small scale. 9 hits. The hits per nine isn't amazing, but it's not terrible. Giving up 4 runs, netted you a 2.53 ERA, but even more impressive, 155 ERA plus, which people out there that are not familiar with ERA plus, it's kind of like WRC plus for pitchers, where you are the baseline average player is 100. Anything above is above average. Anything below is below average. So having a 155 is very good. He has been phenomenal. It would have been very nice had they had gone out and got just one more of these type of guys. You don't need Joan Duran. As much as I would love to have him, and we do have the trade capital to get him at the trade deadline, and it was kind of cool to see that they were in on that. You didn't need it. You just needed to raise the floor, because now we're having to lean on, especially with losing Thornton as he was starting to turn a corner in this year and in his career again. You were seeing Carlos Vargas start to turn a corner the wrong way. You're starting to see Edward Bizardo starting to turn a corner the wrong way. And granted, they give us good outings every now and then, but they're not reliable every time they're going out. And then Casey Legumina turned the corner, and he's been kind of unfortunately turning the corner over the past couple of months in the wrong direction. So it would have been nice to see another right-handed pitcher like a Griffin Jacks, who I understand as soon as I said I want a Griffin Jacks at the deadline, he gets traded to the Rays, and then we hit a home run off of him and regain the lead of that game. But it would have been somebody of that caliber, Camilo Duvall, somebody of that caliber that wasn't traded for a whole lot, that really would have upgraded your pen and given you that leverage kind of going forward. Because as you're seeing right now, the internal options they're not amazing. We got Soren Lau, which I'm excited to see kind of what he does moving forward. You have Michael Hobbs sitting in Double-A that he's putting up at least good enough numbers. His walks and walks per nine aren't amazing. In fact, they're not good at all. But he's at least holding those guys to where they're at. He's not letting them score. So there's a little bit of clutch factor in there. There's guys that you could take a chance, but you just don't know. And then talking about Andrew Heaney, you're starting to see DFA season happen with all these teams that aren't wanting to pay their players, and wanted to give a shout out negatively to the Pittsburgh Pirates, who you're starting to see a trend. Nolsey, you were on this last year when Rowdy Tellez got DFA'd right before his bonus was about to come in. We saw the same situation with Andrew Heaney today. He had a bonus at 120 innings. He had 120.1 innings, and then they DFA'd him. He had another bonus at 130, another one at, I believe, 140 and 150, and I think one more after that. And so they just let him go, and I get it. You're trying to save money in a year that you're not being competitive, but this pattern, I want to get your thoughts on that. What's with this Pirate situation, cutting these guys? What are your thoughts going in there?
It's bad faith. I mean, to me, you look at it from. I don't. I mean, I probably unfiltered saying I'm shocked that we haven't heard the Players Association going after the Pirates as a grievance to say, like, what the hell are you doing? I mean, honestly, they're probably not doing anything wrong in the eyes of the law, but in terms of dealing in bad faith, they're elite at it. And all that's going to do is it's going to hurt them. It's going to hurt them trying to be competitive, because if a guy goes there, if they want to strike a deal, he's going to go, oh no, these incentives, yeah, take whatever they are and cut them in half, because I'm not going to play this game of I got to get to 130 innings or whatever it is. I need to be at 80, because you're not going to cut me halfway through the year if I'm decent, but you'll sure as hell cut me if you're not competitive towards the end of it. So it's just gonna create a bad product in Pittsburgh, or a continued lesser than product in Pittsburgh, which sucks, because for even a fan base here that's seen, as you've kind of said, kind of average baseball for 20 years, it sucks. And all you're going to see there based on that is continued, especially when you've got a pretty good core of players and Skeens and O'Neill.
They just called up Bubba Chandler. They just called up Bubba Chandler, and honestly, that's been long overdue. That guy's been ready to play Major League Baseball for most of this year.
So
So
it's just
yeah, I
disheartening.
think yeah, you hit the nail on the head for me as well. I think that's where I stand with it as well. Is I get it, it's a business and it's a I guess smart business move. It's not in good faith, and it's sad to see. I don't know if MLBPA will step in and say something because there's starting to be a pattern. You saw it with Rowdy Tellez last year, and you're seeing it with Andrew Heaney this year. The reason why I brought Andrew Heaney up is is he worth kicking the tires? I believe in a $5 million a year. Right now, you'd be looking at maybe $1.5 million to send that. You're looking at, and this is one of the first years I can say this. You're looking at getting into the luxury tax threshold for the Mariners, which is kind of wild to think that they're spending money. Holy smokes! But yeah, you start to look at that at this point in time when guys get DFA'd. But ultimately, I look at, does he help you? Does he help you
Mhm.
get to where you need to be? Because your options they have dwindled so far. You don't have very many good options, and that you're now pivoting a little bit to just, I guess, major league experience. People that have major league experience, something that you can identify as a tool that you can restructure to your own program, which I think we can all agree Jerry's done a very good job with that with pitchers. We've gotten Gabe Spire, we've gotten Colin Snyder over the years, where they've been able to identify something that they like, put it in their system, and go. You saw it with Penn Murphy. You saw it with some of these guys that they've been able to identify. So I just didn't know. I wanted to at least surface his name and see if that was something. Maybe there's something worth kicking the tires on that can help you with longevity, help you with that experience, your experience side and everything. So could be worth it just because there's not a whole lot of options right out there right now. However, I did also want to bring up there's a big hot topic happening right now. There's only been one outing. So get excited, but maybe not super excited because we don't know exactly when this whole shift is going to happen at the major league level. But Emerson Hancock had his first outing out of the pen, and he touched 99.1. Uh, Holy smokes. Like there it is. That's University of Georgia kid that we saw who was, the 5th, 6th overall pick back in 2020, 2021. I believe it's 2020. But that's the kid that we saw. And that's what you should be excited about. And I know when we had Ty on our show, that was one of the routes he was saying with him at the beginning of the year is, because you're in a situation where you don't have a ton of depth at starting pitcher, you kind of need to keep him there. But I think where he's going to fit in the most could be out of the bullpen. So I'm excited to see what he does moving forward, and if he's not that winning piece come September, which I understand we're only 4 or 5 days away from September, but one or two more outings with his experience at the major league level, with his experience playing the amount of years in minor league baseball, I think you could see a quicker turnaround. You're still going to want to see a handful of outings just to see how he bounces back and recuperates from one inning stints where he's maxing out velo and everything. You're going to want to see just a little bit of bounce back. You're going to want to see, can he manage this workload the way it's being given to him? Because at the major league level, when you're in the heat of war, there's going to be days where you're going to need to go back to back. Can he do that? And I think you want to maybe stress test that part out before he comes back up. Either way, I'm excited to see what he does. But yeah, Nosey, thoughts on Emerson Hancock?
I mean, not my it's not my favorite thing, especially just the fact that we're just now trying to take starters and make them relievers this late in the year. Especially because you've mentioned some other people that have been relievers all year long. Again, it is a transition. It's not riding a bike. It's not like, oh, I can just go from pitching the first inning to pitching the seventh inning. Much different way. It's a much different mindset. However, you only have so many options, right? And you kind of have to make the best of it. And trusting Dipoto and team, kind of their evaluation of pitchers and the success they've had, they probably have deemed that if you look between him, Logan Evans, Hancock is probably one that's probably it will make the easiest transition in this season to be effective this season. So at this point, hey, I like Hancock. I'd love to see him back up on the team. I wish he was left-handed. But beyond that, it's like you said, you can't, don't hold your breath, but at the same time, be excited. Um, so we'll see what happens. Maybe, like you said, come September 1st, when they, I think when, I forget when the rosters expand, but when they do
Yeah,
expand,
September 1st.
September 1st, he comes up and he's kind of that guy. Maybe you hold him in, maybe you wait to put him in, maybe in a more comfortable situation when you're up 5 runs, something like that. And you say, okay, man, there's no pressure. Just go out there and throw 99 and see what happens. Gain the confidence, and then we can work to get you more in leverage situations as we move closer to the end of the year.
Yeah, I agree with you. Let them be stress tested unless you're really, really just hurting for another relief pitcher. If you're having to throw Vargas out there more and more because of starting pitchers not being able to go 5-6 innings, then yeah, I think you're looking at a different situation. But for right now, just stress test him at this new capacity and just see what he looks like before actually making the jump back up. Because yeah, it's as somebody who went from starting pitching to relief pitching in college, it's no walk in the park. It's a completely different mindset. You have to have a little bit of psycho in you, and you have to have a little bit of just kind of the FU mentality of not that you can't have it as a starting pitcher, but you really need it as a relief pitcher, because sometimes you're saying FU to your own arm, which hurts because you just threw 20 some odd pitches yesterday and you got to come back out. Either way, excited to see what the future looks like with Emerson Hancock out of the pen. Also wanted to give a shout out to at least Troy Taylor. I know he's not putting up impressive numbers, but he could be somebody that makes an appearance in the next month. And you just kind of see if he just doesn't regain the confidence. If not, I would understand if they didn't go back to him, just so he can have the full rest of the year to understand where he's at and just figure things out in AAA. But somebody at least to put on tap for a potential return to see if there's any fire that can be caught as we kind of get through this season. Wanted to get to one of our pretty much our last topic here of rest of the year. Going to move over to our schedule. Obviously, right now it's a 7-6 ball game in the I think it's now the 8th, but either way, they got the Padres. And hopefully we end that one on a good note. Either way, it's a 1:10 game tomorrow. Make sure to tune in for the Vetter Cup Game 6. And yeah, excited to see how the rest of this series plays out. They've been playing very good at home, but then you go right on the road to the Guardians, and I know they're kind of they're out of it for the year, but they still have a good enough team that can give you problems if your hitters don't step up for the day, or your pitchers. If you go into that Guardian series and you just have 3 pitchers that have an off game, you could be looking at 2 to 3 losses and a whole series that's you're now losing and behind. And keep in mind, we are no longer in first place for the wild card. We're now in 3rd place, and we're trailing the Red Sox and the Yankees by I believe a game and a half in a game. But it's how you finish the month. You could be set up for success, but you could also shoot yourself in the foot. So I'd like to see us potentially, I like to see us take 2 out of 3 against the Padres here, and then and if you're lucky, take the sweep, and then at least take 2 out of 3 from the Guardians. And as we move on to September, we kind of hit the ground running. You got the Rays, who will at least give you, they're like the A's, they're going to give you a good series. The Braves are still good enough that they're probably going to give you at least a game or 2 of a good ball game. And then you got the Cardinals, you got the Angels, you got the Royals, and you control a little bit of your destiny here. The Royals are tailing you by a couple games. So you got the Royals for 3 and you got the Astros for 3, and that's going to be a very big week. The week of September 15th through the 21st. If you go 4-2, 4-2 and you take 2 games from the Royals and 2 games from the Astros, you're looking at something special. And then you got the Rockies, which you never take a team lightly, but boys, you got to go into this series and just be ready to rip some heads off, because then you got the Dodgers, who are going to give you hell to finish out the year. And we could be looking at potential in or out. Like if we don't handle business for the next couple of weeks, that Dodgers series could really be the make or break of getting into the postseason if you go into that Royals series and lose all 3. So Nosy, I guess just final thoughts on schedule, kind of finishing out the year and where we're at and how you think we're gonna kind of finish things up.
The Rocky series, probably out of all of them, is my most like. I look at that and just go trap. Like it's a trap series, um, especially because you're coming off. Especially because you have that Astros series that leads into it, where let's say you do take 2 or 3 of the Astros. Let's say it gets you a game ahead of them, or puts you right in the mix of things. Then you got the Rockies again. Um, thankfully it's at home, so we're not playing in their field where a bunt can go 30 feet over the wall. But they're sneaky. They've played some of these weird games where all of a sudden they score 10 runs and come back, 10 runs in 2 innings and win. And then this Dodgers team is not the Dodgers that we've seen the last few years where they've just kind of ran with their division. They're fighting for their own playoff destiny. So it's not like we're going to be getting their B team for a 3-game series. They're going to have to try to win. So it's going to put, it's going to be a push to the finish. It's going to be an exciting brand of ball. No team really in this last month is a slouch. All of them are going to put competitive games on you. And so it's, you're hoping that you've kind of taken your lumps. You've kind of you've kind of taken your woes this last August, and now it's like, okay, we've reset. We've kind of, we've had our slumps. Let's turn it around. Gino, you seem to be making the corner. Great. Keep that rolling. We seem to be getting a Cal home run streak, which like, hey, how long can you pull this through? Starting pitching in particular. How can we get you guys 5 innings and keep it competitive? I feel like you can feel confident with Wu. For all the crap, I would say Castillo's kind of gotten from day one. He's been our second most consistent pitcher behind Wu. I mean, all year long, those have been our stalemates. Gilbert, Kirby, Miller have been their dealer's choice. Flip a coin that day. So a lot to lean on. There's a lot to unpack there, but ultimately, buckle up. It's going to be a good brand of ball for the next 20 games.
Yeah, either way, it's gonna be locked in baseball for the next month until it's a hopefully going to be a nice little photo finish. And you're just hoping that the race goes on their side, and you're hoping that 5-game skid, as we mentioned last week, you're hoping that 5-game skid on the road against the Mets, against the Phillies, 2 very good teams, but also not the top teams in baseball. But you hope that 5-game skid kind of woke things up. And you'll see games where it falls back into place, unfortunately. But you're hoping that overall that 5-game core really resonated with the guys. They can grow from it. They can actually move forward with a more core nucleus that's going to show up every single day. And yeah, I think the other determining factor in all this is Bryce Miller. I hope Bryce Miller can kind of step up and give you at least 5 innings of good baseball, where it's not 5 runs in the second, 5 runs in the third. And we all know how good of a pitcher Bryce Miller is. And I think Bryce Miller knows how good of a pitcher Bryce Miller is. It may just be a prolonged issue that's still kind of lingering. Something that's just it's not gone, and he's trying to push through it. Obviously, the Mariners are trying a little bit to just get him through the rest of this year. So you hope to see him just figure things out and finish this year strong. But yeah, I guess for that, I did want to kick it to you for any last final thoughts heading into the rest of the year, and just kind of wrap this whole thing up.
Have the popcorn ready. It's gonna be a ride.
Get the popcorn ready. That's Nolsey. My name's Gavin Height. This is Up West Sports, and for Up West Sports, just remember, life's too short. Gas up, you boys.